All right, boys and girls, welcome back. Sam's Army, episode 2.219. We got a lot to talk about this week. We're going to start off with U.S. men's national team, where we'll put the bow on the group stage of the Group Gold Cup and then give a quick quarterfinal preview. Weekly What If will be World Cup related headlines. Wenger's offsides rule, Pulisic and LLL Triste fans. Round the world, we got MLS Hit It and Quit It is back. Can't wait for that. And of course, stoppage time with Ivan Toney's best bets and everyone's favorite segment, GOAWs. Now it is time to welcome in the beautiful beauty who is dumb enough to spend America's birthday eve talking soccer with me because he knows and appreciates the people need their weekly fix of Sam's Army. So a big shout out and thanks to none other than Tyler Mackenzie Terrence. How are you doing today, Tyler?
Tyler Mackenzie?
Yeah, I like coming up with middle names, and you seem like you might be a Mackenzie middle name kind of guy.
No, that would be TMT. I'm TNT. Nathaniel, actually.
Nathaniel. Yeah. That would have been my second guess.
Yeah.
Well, it is great to have you back, as always. But here's your question for the week. So you've done a lot of travels. In fact, we were talking about it right before we got on the pod. You're in line for some nice status next year. But of the travels that you've done so far this year, give us the best and the worst, or most and least favorite, strictly from a game day vibes perspective.
Ooh. Game day vibes perspective. I think Cincy is number one.
Ooh.
So Devin and I were there week 3 for the Seattle game. And it would we went to the Findlay Market, which is a really cool spot, and everyone was in their Cincy gear. Like every way you turn, you know how sometimes if it happens in certain cities, you're just like, oh, they're wearing MLS shit. It's just common to be wearing it. And I could just feel the vibe. And Devin and I went out to lunch at noon, and you could just feel it. Don't make me say the worst, please.
Okay. Is there one that stands out well below the rest?
Are we talking about everything leading up to it, the actual game?
I'll let you decide.
Yeah, there's one.
We'll get it. We'll maybe somebody will guess it. I have no idea because I assume that you're not including Chicago on there.
You could take a couple of guesses.
Well, I'm assuming you're not including Chicago in the list. No answer. Okay. All right. Moving on. U.S. men's national team. Oh boy. So the group stage is over. We won our group. Yay, golf claps. So draw with Jamaica 1-1. 6-0 win over St. Kitts and Nevis, and then again 6-0, another win over Trinidad and Tobago just the other day. So you've been watching the games, but you haven't been on, I don't think, since the start of the Gold Cup. Give us just your sort of takeaways from the group stage so far.
Yeah, I mean, the Jamaica game was unimpressive and uninspiring, but I think that this is the first time that this group has played competitively together in a long time, including a lot of new faces. So you kind of had a feeling that was going to happen, and any moment of individual brilliance and things of that nature, this group doesn't really possess the same sort of game breakers that the other group does, obviously. So I wasn't terribly discouraged by that Jamaica performance, and then the other two are exactly what they're supposed to be. But that's not to take away from what we're doing, because we have seen in the past when we don't take care of business, but those are two bad teams. Trinidad and Tobago have fallen off the level
2017. They're not the 2017 Soca Warriors.
But even 2019, there was just way more fight in that group than what we saw. So beat the hell out of a couple teams you're supposed to beat the hell out of. On to the next.
One thing about the Jamaica game, which we talked about on the podcast, but you didn't mention it, so I'll throw it in there. That Jamaica team is no joke. They've got some serious talent.
Within 18 months, they're going to be a Premier League team.
Yeah. They're not done recruiting.
Their front line is Mikel Antonio, Damari Gray, and Leon Bailey. What are we talking about? They're legit.
Very legit. So I just want to throw that out there. So there's a couple talking points from the group stage that everybody is talking about online. Number one, Jesus Ferreira. So the guy has been scoring left and right and center. He's got 2 hat tricks in the last 2 games. The MLS haters are beside themselves on Twitter at the moment.
Are they?
They are. There's some people
No,
that you can tell if he scores, they get mad, which is, blows my mind. But I think that, I mean, I'll just sort of put this out there, and I don't think it's a controversial take by any stretch of the imagination. First of all, he's 22 years old, right? He's not at his ceiling yet. He's a very good player and a very good MLS player. I think a lot of people would like to see him test himself overseas. No, he's not in our best 11 at the moment. And I don't think anybody other than Alexi Lalas is suggesting that, 6 goals in the group stage of the Gold Cup means that
he wasn't suggesting that. He didn't know what he was suggesting because he said that he doesn't know. And
he's just asking questions, right? You are a special duck. But like, listen, he's not in contention to be in the 11, unless Greg is completely outside of his mind. But let's just be happy that we have that kind of talent who's waiting in the wings and perhaps has a higher ceiling that can score, back-to-back World Gold Cup hat tricks. I just feel like I don't know. It's so silly that we're even talking about this.
This tournament, the group stage is silly. Like, what are we talking about? Like, this is the way it should be. We should be a dominant force within world soccer, and we should continue to make a mockery of the bottom half of CONCACAF. That's what it should look like. And like, yeah, it's great that he's scoring goals because he easily could not. And we know how quickly goal scoring form can change for a striker, especially a young one. But like, this is the world that we live in. And this is why Matt Turner has 20 clean sheets and 30 appearances. That's an outrageous number. And it's only because we play against dog shit teams. Now, a lot of that has to do with COVID, but it also has to do with the region that we're in. But like, I just don't, if he scores a goal, if he scores another goal or 2 in the knockout round, I'll be impressed. I'm not impressed at all right now.
Okay. And the funny thing is,
should be doing this.
Right. And the quarterfinal still isn't when, it starts to get interesting. The semifinal is when, it starts to get interesting in Gold Cup, unless something happens.
Quarterfinal against Canada, potentially. And
right. Unless something happens.
Struggled with Curacao, who was actually a very good team for, a year or 2. They had a lot of guys who were transferred. They had a lot of Dutch guys who were playing there at the Vizier. And we only beat them 1-0. And I think it was like a clipped ball at the back post from Pulisic to McKennie that ended up being the goal. I believe that game was in Philadelphia. But like, those games can also, like, you're going to need, like, if Ferreira scores the lone goal in that game, then it's like, okay, like, you can do it even when you're up against a little more resilience than the Soka Warriors and St. Kitts and Nevis.
Now, I'm going to throw some players at you. I'm not going to ask for one word because that's, it's a little tough in a situation like this. Yeah, right. I'll keep that for Nostradamus. But give me your sort of quick, succinct thoughts on how they did in the group stage. So for each of the players I throw out there, let's start with Cade Cowell.
Cade Cowell did well when he got the opportunity. I think he made some things a little bit more complicated, including his goal. Yeah. But I think that he has something. I mean, again, a baby, but he has something, and he will be a part of this group for a long time.
Yeah, he's got that athleticism that I said this a lot. I say this a lot.
Got afterburners.
You can't teach.
He blows by people.
Yeah, you can't teach that. Alejandro Zendejas.
Pass.
Yes,
I'm not feeling it.
He just has not fit in with this group. And
you and I were talking about this beforehand. I think he's the type of player that needs to be playing with like more technical, skillful players, like he plays that with Club America, and like, that's fine. But like, if you're going to deem that you're worthy of being in the first group, be worthy of being in the first group with the second team. Jesus Ferreira is doing everything that he can to show, hey, listen, if you give me the reins, I'm going to bang in goals. Granted, it's against dog shit, but same sort of thing.
That's fair. Because I watch him a fair amount. I watch a fair amount of League MX because I like overs, and there's a lot of overs in League MX. So I've seen him play a fair amount for Club America, and I've often been impressed with him, but not this tournament. Just he looks off. He also looks like he got off on the wrong foot, and now he's like pressing way too much.
Yeah, listen, and this is difficult for him to like come into this group and the whole thing, and like, it takes a little while to assimilate sometimes. So I'm not writing him off, but it just hasn't been for me.
Yeah. Georgi Mihailovic,
baller. He's been. I mean, this like we were joking about. This is what he has been doing since he left the Fire. Basically, I mean, he needed 1 year to adjust to Montreal, but the dude can play, man. The dude can play. Like that's never been a secret, and that's never been in question. It's all in between the ears for him. So if he can stay focused, and Greg can potentially get some good things out of him, and maybe some of the, you know, quote unquote older guys or the more senior guys on the team, more capped players, I should say, can reel him in a little bit. He can really play. And like, if you can succeed in the Dutch First Division and do well there and get some attention, he's going to be at a big club within the next 12 to 18 months.
Again, I like overs, and I watch a lot of the Eredivisie, so I've seen him play for Alkmaar, and yes, I expect big things out of him. Plus, he's part of Sam Fam. You know, he came and watched the World Cup with us. Brandon Vasquez.
Good finish. Should have scored 4 coming off the bench.
Yeah, it almost feels like an incomplete based on the fact that we just haven't seen as much of him as
I've seen a ton, and I know Cincy fan. I'm on Cincy Twitter a decent amount. I see it, like they ain't happy. But yeah, man, I being super clean and taking your opportunities. It's your job. Like, especially in this federation and the struggles that we had in this past World Cup, like they want people who are going to finish. That's why Jesus is doing his thing.
I could keep throwing them at you, but instead let's sort of go to looking forward. So the quarterfinal, we play the runner-up of Group D, and right now on Monday evening, July 3rd, birthday eve of America, we don't know who that's going to be. So Guadeloupe and Guatemala are even on 4 points. Canada has 2 points, and Cuba has 0 points. Guadeloupe and Guatemala play each other, and Canada plays Cuba. So we don't really know who we're going to play. And frankly, as we said before we get on the pod, it shouldn't matter who we play in terms of who we are going to go out there and start with in this game. So who would you like to start with? Or do you want me to throw my 11 out
there? You give me your lineup, and then I'll critique it.
Okay. Turner in net, obviously. Before we actually go further, are you disappointed that Gaga hasn't been cap-tied?
Am I disappointed?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, like I would love to see him cap-tied, but at the same time, like I don't really think that Matt is senior enough to the point where you can then just say, "Oh, take a Gold Cup game off and let us give it to this 19-year-old." Like,
true. Now they took a whole game off and gave it to Sean Johnson.
That's giving it to a 31-year-old or 30. He's way older than that. Yeah, but you know what I'm saying, though. It's not like the goalkeeping situation isn't that drastic yet. Yeah. That makes sense.
I just wish they would have.
I get it. Yes, the simple answer is yes. I'm disappointed, but like, I get it.
Yeah.
If they don't feel as ready, they don't feel as ready.
Yeah. Listen, Turner's played well. He saved the penalty against Jamaica. Obviously, he hasn't seen a whole bunch of shots. There was the one screamer against Trinidad and Tobago that hit the post and went out. But listen, he's played well. He's just been Matt Turner. He's everything we expect from him. In the back, I've got James Neal and Matt Miazga at the moment. Brian Reynolds. And then on the other side, this is where I'm not sure, between Jones and Tolkien. Which one would you lean towards? Jones? Just
and I'm a Jersey guy.
You've seen more from him in this tournament? I mean, we've seen him more. And Tolkien played against Jamaica, which would have been the toughest competition.
Agreed, but I think Jones has a higher ceiling.
Okay. I think they both
Even
have a
Tolkien-
high ceiling.
Say that again.
I think they both have a high ceiling.
Agreed. I just think at the international level, Jones's physicality, and his speed, I think that would be more useful. And this is to say that I think Tolkien has actually earned it over him, but I just want to see DeJuan Jones in that sort of spot.
Okay. Then there's going to be a couple question marks here and a couple sort of controversial suggestions, but I would actually like to see, I mean, like skipping ahead, I'd like to see Vasquez up top and Ferreira play like somehow maybe on the wing. I know that he doesn't, okay, give me your thoughts. You watch a lot more MLS than me.
So it's funny because All-Star game last year, he comes off the bench against League MX All-Stars in Minneapolis. And I don't even remember who the coach was for MLS. So fucking stupid. Put him out on the wing. And he did well. Like, he did really well. It's an all-star game. It was the last 20, 25 minutes, but like he looked comfortable. And me and Brian Dunseth were asking him about it after the game. We were like, dude, like, are you like comfortable there? He's like, yeah, like, I don't really know. He's like, yeah, I just sort of went out there. It's an all-star game. But he looked comfortable. And I think that it could be a decent look. But my only concern is defensively.
True.
Defending out on the wing is a hell of a lot different than defending as a striker, which he has done so often. Like finding space and finding goals, that's intuitive and that's instinctive. Defending out there takes reps and it takes like an understanding of the space.
True. And so then when I'm throwing that in there, obviously I don't think that's going to happen, but I just figured I would like to see it. I'd like to see it.
No, I dig it.
So I got Mihailovic and Sands and Busio in the middle.
Yep.
Then so what I had written down was Vasquez up top. Obviously that's not going to happen. It's going to be Ferreira. Let's assume it's just going to be Ferreira. And then what, Cowell. And so I had written down Ferreira and Cowell.
Who are the front three?
Those are the Ferreira, Cowell, Ferreira with Vasquez and Cowell.
That's Ferreira, Vasquez, and Cowell. Okay, so let's say that your fantasy land of Jesus playing out on the wing doesn't come true. Then who's your winger?
If the fantasy land does not actually happen,
So you need another winger.
Well, I don't think Zendejas should be it. He just hasn't been playing well enough. Who's that leave?
Christian Roldan.
People are going to hate that, but he's actually played well.
He's a good player, man.
People are going to hate that, but he's played well. So yeah, I guess I'm down with the Roldan as our other winger.
His brother is good too. Don't sleep on him.
Well, we can sleep on him because he's playing for Honduras or Guatemala, El Salvador. But you're right, both the Roldans can play. And listen, I say this every time it comes up on the pod. I'm like, I've never seen him translate what I see him do for Sounders to the national team. But this tournament, he's been better. He's made things happen. And I know it's Gold Cup and the level's a little bit, lower than some of the other national team games, but I've been impressed. And I know the MLS haters are going to hate that because like they've completely written off guys like, Roldan and Jordan Morris and, Aaron Long, Areola, everybody like that, obviously. But he's played well. So I'd be fine with that. I'd be fine with Roldan as the other winger. And there we go. We don't know who we're going to play. If it's Canada, that'll be it should be an interesting game, but we should win. Period. Like there's nobody there's nobody in that group that should beat us. Like the only teams that I think will give us a tough game or should give us a tough game, Mexico and Jamaica. That's it.
Honestly,
maybe just Jamaica.
I want to kick the shit out of Canada. We took a point from them in 2 World Cup qualifying games. It was terrible. Nashville performance, the end of John Brooks, terrible. Got the shit kicked out of us at Tim Hortons in Hampton. Terrible. I want to beat the piss out of them.
That was bad. Yeah, that's when they started. They started getting a little uppity. Those Canadians
They were
after those
uppity.
games.
They were like, oh, look at the way we play. Okay, see you later. Minus 17 goal differential at the World Cup.
Yeah, it didn't work out so well at the World Cup. But listen, and it hasn't worked out very well at the Gold Cup either, to be honest. But I do think that their talent will
Prevail over.
they're on the up and up, other than their finances, which are apparently just as bad as everybody else in CONCACAF. But that's another story for another time.
Almost as bad as player-manager relations at the U.S. Soccer Federation. Almost, not quite, but almost.
Not quite. Let's hit weekly what if time. So now, first, I'm going to start this out with an apology because I just had a conversation with somebody on Instagram who sort of around the way suggested this question for weekly what if, and I didn't write down your name, so I don't know who actually recommended it. So I apologize. Hit me up on Instagram. I'll give you a shout out next week because I do apologize for that. I usually am better about writing this down. I didn't do it, but here's the weekly what if. It's about making the third place game of the World Cup meaningful. Is there something we can do? Right. And this guy suggested, what about guaranteeing a spot in the next World Cup? What are your thoughts?
Are we doing the same for the finalists?
A good question. And yes, because we're going to 48 teams anyway.
Might as well just give some automatic bids. Yeah,
you just hand them out. I mean, it's 48 teams. If you make a World Cup semifinal and then somehow don't make it to the next World Cup in a 48 team tournament, I mean, fucking hell. Something obviously went drastically wrong. So I'm on board.
I'm on board with that.
Yeah,
I'm on board with it. Yeah, why not?
I'm good with that. This is the quickest weekly what if.
It's gimmicky. It's like MLB.
It is. It's like the All-Star. I do love.
I love that when that was a rule. I thought that was awesome.
Did they get rid of that?
Yeah.
Oh fuck! I gotta get my head.
Can't have something that important relying on what is supposed to be guys' vacation.
I gotta get my head out of my ass. I didn't know that MLB even got rid of that.
Then you got like guys on the Mets who are bums who aren't going to make the World Series, and it doesn't fucking matter for them. So like they're not trying. And I'm saying that as a Mets fan.
There's a self-hatred. Listen, I feel the same way as a Cardinals fan who's in St. Louis right now and just watch the Cardinals, piss away another lead against the Marlins of all teams. God, we suck.
Are you going to tell everyone that you're moving to St. Louis yet or no?
Well, I'm not moving to St. Louis, although the boss lady's starting to give me the half-court press, but that's not happening. Although I will say, going to St. Louis City games, I know you said Cincinnati was the best five. Holy shit.
You didn't ask me what number 2 was.
Yeah. Is it St. Louis? Yeah. I mean, this, I know it's the new shiny thing. So it's like easy for everybody to get, but like first of all, the ownership group obviously has done it the right way. And the city itself has been dying for this type of, situation for years and years and years. Shout out to the USL team that kept sort of the pilot flame burning for all those years. But like this is what I've gone to 2 games so far. They've both been sellouts. It's like kind of rejuvenated my belief in like what MLS can and like should be. Like I know that there's a lot of people, I know them personally at the Fire who are working their asses off trying to make that situation better. But it stinks right now. They know it. We know it. The stadium, the team hasn't been good. Like there's a lot of question marks there. I know that they're working their asses off, and I believe that they will get it right. Mansueto will keep throwing money at it, and eventually they will get that right. But right now, it's just not. It's not great. And then you come to St. Louis and like sold out, beautiful vibes. The stadium's incredible. The team's good. It's just everything that like I imagine MLS can and should be is what St. Louis is putting out there right now. And it's awesome to see. It's just really incredible, but I'm not going to move to St. Louis. Your turn.
My turn. No, I'm good.
Yeah. Listen, St. Louis City is doing it right. And shout out to Tim Parker for scoring another goal. He's got 2 goals this season and he's an all-star. This fucking guy, Tim Parker. I want to somehow give the podcast credit for it.
Tell him you're welcome.
Yeah, I guess we'll say it's the podcast. All right, we'll move on to headlines. So we got some big ones here. First, FIFA. It sounds like they are giving the green light to trialing this new offsides rule, which I don't know if Arsene Wenger came up with it or if he was just championing it, but they're calling it like the Wenger rule, where, so right now, a offensive player, an attacking player has to be, fully behind a defender. What they're going to switch, and there's been a lot of talk about this online, you just have to have some portion of your body. The attacking player has to have some portion of their body in line with the defender, right? So it just changes the line. There can't be daylight essentially in between the defender and the attacking player. You know what I mean?
So the whole body would have to be removed from the plane of the defender for it to be offside. So even if it's like a hand, even if it's like half of your arm,
I assume it's going to be the same way where your arm doesn't count.
Got it. Okay.
Because you can drag a toe, right? Like in hockey, you can drag a toe, but you can't drag an arm. I don't think that works. And so what they're doing is they're going to trial this in 3 countries, like Sweden, I don't know, Belgium. I'm just totally throwing out countries at this point, but they're trialing it at the U23 level, I believe, and see how it works. What's your thoughts on this?
I mean, my first gut instinct is like anything that's going to make the offside rule easier for referees to determine in real time, then I'm game.
But I don't know if it's going to, though. Do you think that's going to make it?
Saying, like, it's daylight one way or the other, right? It's like you either can see some body part going one way, or this is just going to change it going the other way. And I'm just sort of like, well, are we making it potentially more complicated? I mean, the purpose is to get more goals and give more opportunities to the attacking team, which I guess in itself, if we're talking about growing the sport and shutting up those people who say like, oh, soccer's so boring, it just finishes 1-1, yet they go to an NFL game that's 7-7 and they're like, when it's the same thing. But never mind, I digress. So yeah, I don't know. If it's a net in terms of, if it's a net equal in terms of like whether or not it's going to make it more difficult for the referees, but it is going to grow the game and there's going to be more goals and more opportunities, then yeah, I think it's good for the sport. But it could make it more complicated.
So there's 3 things I just sort of immediately come up with on this. The first is law of unintended consequences. Like, we just won't know exactly. There'll be some sort of weird wacko result from this that we can't even, wrap our small little brains around. What I can suggest, though, number one, and I've seen a lot of people suggest this on Twitter, is that basically what it will incentivize or motivate is defenders to play a far lower block. And basically,
minimize the amount of space in between themselves and
the goal. And basically, you're so the thought is, well, this is going to increase scoring, and perhaps, and maybe this falls under the law of unintended consequences, but perhaps you're actually going to have defenders sort of playing further back, and maybe you're, and who knows on that. But number 2 is, yes, this is, going to be doable when you have VAR and you have the best, of the best in the linesmen and everything like that. What about in rec league? And when you don't have all that stuff, like, is this going to
it's going to be like, are we playing the new or the old offside rule? That's
yes. And people like you and me, especially me, who have been around the block so many times already, are we really going to be able to completely change, our mentality and the way we think about sort of offsides in a short amount of time?
Also, what league are you playing in where there's offside? Because
fair point.
Play at the same place that I play, and there ain't no offside.
That's a fair point. That's a fair point. TST 77, no offsides there either. Okay, that's fair. I don't know. I understand the concept of it and sort of what the rationale for it. I don't know. I guess what I'm really interested in, 2 things. I'm interested in seeing what happens when they, trial this in those U23 leagues and sort of get a sense for what happens. I'm interested in that. And then number 2, I actually give FIFA some credit because, they're trying, they're looking right. They're
it's admirable.
Yeah. So I don't give FIFA a lot of credit, but I feel like sometimes let's give them their due. So they're trying to, look at ways to improve the game. All right, number 2, Christian Pulisic. Got to talk about this. So I ignore transfer rumors like it's going out of style, but there is clearly some substantive stuff going on here. Where I think Fabrizio, he said that Olympic Lyon has is it Lyon or Lille? Lyon, right? Okay. Lyon has put in a definitive bid for Christian Pulisic, and also it's clear that AC Milan is going hard after him, and perhaps even Yunus Musa as well. So, Tyler Terrence, do you have a preference between Lyon and AC Milan for Christian Pulisic?
1000% Milan.
Really?
Liga? Come on now.
Just a better league, basically?
For sure.
Okay.
He'll be challenged more in Serie A. Better chance of advancing and playing more games in Champions League with Milan as opposed to Lyon, probably. But Lyon's bid was, I think, $10 million more than Milan. So this is going to be interesting how Chelsea want to play this, because Todd is basically going to have to make a decision between keeping a decent relationship with Christian and not looking like a total dick, and taking the money. Because this is pretty simple. Like, Christian doesn't want to go to Lyon. He wants to go to Milan, but Lyon's making a much higher offer. So
listen, he's a businessman, and I think I know where businessmen tend to, come down on that decision right there. Yeah, I'm with you on AC Milan. I guess we'll see on that. Last headline: Mexico fans, El Triste specifically fans, what the F is going on? We've this is not the first time we've been talking about this, right? Like, by the way, the fireworks in the background, that's you, I think, not me, right? Is
it me? I guess so.
I don't know. It might be me. I'm not even sure. But listen, America's birthday in a couple hours, so people are, they're letting.
How else would I spend it doing Sam's Army?
That's why we got it. That's why we love you. That's why we love you, Tyler Terrence.
I haven't been on in weeks. I'm on your shit list. I know I am.
No, you're not. None of you guys are on my shit list. I'm just glad to see you. I'm just glad that you're back and gracing us with your presence and your beautiful thoughts and voice. So the new thing with the El Triste fans, it's not the chant. It's not, throwing things at players left and right. Stabbing people, stabbing each other in the stands. It was in Santa Clara at Levi Stadium. It was directly after the Mexico-Qatar match, in which Mexico lost. You guys lost to Qatar, you dummies. But then they stabbed each other in the stands. How they got knives in the stadium, I don't know. But I don't know. Is it going downhill? Is there some sort of reckoning that we're heading towards? Because
they're hitting rock bottom. They're hitting rock bottom. This is it.
Oh, I hope so.
You gotta hit rock bottom, and then you gotta raise your hand and be like, I got a problem.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's hope that
we are LLL Triste.
I do love that LLL Triste. I hope so. I know that it's not even a large subsegment. It's just a few people who, I guess, a substantial segment of the fan population, whatever, are at least sort of allowing to do it, right? If you have fans in the stands who, if somebody throws something, then they're like, that's the guy, get him the fuck out of here, right? Or, I'm not going to get into the chant thing. I know that's there's a lot of controversy there and what that means. But just if you throw a glass of whatever, hit somebody in the head, and you're standing there right next to him, and they did it, just be like, boom, this idiot, this asshole, get him the fuck out of here. And then
narc, you're a rat.
Yes, narc.
Narc.
I'm not across the board fan of narking, but there are certain situations.
You're
like
Dr. Narc. You're Dr. Narc.
if somebody's doing like a monkey chant at somebody, yeah, you fucking narc. Be like, yeah, this is the asshole right here.
That wasn't initially what you said. You were talking about throwing a bottle or something
That's
like
true.
that.
I decided to push it a
You
little
decided
further.
to up it to racism. Yeah, then you make me feel like the asshole. You just gaslit me, Sam's Army style. That was bullshit. This is totally moving target on me.
I still honestly don't know what gaslighting means. The Mrs. Army throws that at me a lot, and I'm like, I don't know what that means. I don't want to know what that means. But stop using your millennial buzzwords in my presence.
Oh God.
Oh, all right. Well, let's hope that El Triste.
You're toxic. You're toxic.
No, let's hope El Triste fans have hit rock bottom, and they can admit they have a problem. As you said, that's the first step, and then they can seek help. All right, round the world. Oh, it's back. It's back. MLS, hit it and quit it minute. The Minute Man himself. Hit us with all you got, big man.
All right, week 22 Major League Soccer season. We are well past the halfway mark, boys and girls. Let's start north of the border in Toronto, where, yes, Bob Bradley was just fired, and it just does not get any better for the Reds. 1-0 against Real Salt Lake, who have been playing some good football as of late, and the arrival of Chicho Arango is right around the corner as they take on Orlando this weekend. Speaking of Orlando, let's go down to Exploria Stadium, where they take on the aforementioned Chicago Fire, who are coming off 2 road wins in the same week for the first time since class 2009 when they started that season, 11 matches unbeaten. But, of course, 3-1, Orlando City, Facu Torres, bags of brace. Chicago do get their goal through Jordan Shaqiri, but it is not enough. 3-1 is the final score. Columbus Crew at home against Red Bulls after taking down Nashville last week. They do the same to Troy Lesane and company. 2-1 is the final score. Inter Miami at home against Austin, the much anticipated arrival of Lionel Messi, Sergio Busquets, and whoever else is going to find their way back down to South Florida. 1-1 final score. I'll tell you what, it's going to take about 5 Messis to fix what's going on in Miami right now, but that's neither here nor there. Actually, it's right here considering I got DC and in Miami this weekend. FC Cincinnati at home against New England Revolution. New England winners for their last 3 straight. FC Cincinnati have not dropped a single point at home yet this season until Bruce Arena and company come to town. They finally draw 10-0-1 at TQL this year, and Cincinnati still one of the best teams in the league, but have been stumbling as of late. Fell to DC United the week before. Nashville 2-0 winners over DC United. Hani Mukhtar had a hand in the goals. Randall Leal scores 2. Walker Zimmerman gets sent off as well. St. Louis 2-0. Sam was there. Tim scored all as well at City Park over the Colorado Rapids. FC Dallas 2-0 winners over LAFC. That game was in Texas, and LAFC are in a bad way right now, man. They have lost game after game after game, specifically to teams hailing from the Lone Star State of Texas. Minnesota 4-1 winners over Portland, as Emmanuel Reynoso is making his presence very felt back in Major League Soccer. Sporting Kansas City wallop Vanni Sartini after his stupendous nickelback routine. 3-0 is the final score at Children's Mercy Park. Montreal welcome NYCFC to Quebec, and it's not a very happy welcome. 1-0 to NYCFC, who win their first game since April 22nd. Yes, you heard that right. Seattle Sounders finally win their first game in the last 5. They get a goal at home, which has been hard to come by. The Houston Dynamo still have only won 1 game on the road this year. Seattle win 1-0. Thanks to an Albert Rusnak goal midway through the second half. And California Clasico, San Jose 2-2 against the LA Galaxy. And then yesterday, this was on Sunday, I believe, Thiago Almada scores another goal, not from a free kick, but off the rebound. And he just absolutely hammered it. Atlanta United 2-0 winners over the Philadelphia Union. That game was at Mercedes-Benz. Gonzalo Pineda and the boys sitting comfortably mid-table in the Eastern Conference. And that would do it for match day number 22.
All right. Well, listen, there's actually some midweek games coming up, including El Tráfico on America's birthday. So, what's more American than watching some MLS soccer? But you actually mentioned the stoppage, my best bet last week, Atlanta and Philadelphia, which I thought was like a lock. As soon as Almeida scored that free kick in like the 8th minute, I'm like, boom, we're good. Philly's definitely going to score. Atlanta's probably going to score another one. Nope.
It was. Oh, you had the over?
I had the over, and
2.5.
2.5 didn't pan out. So that's our disappointing and discouraging, depressing intro for stoppage time, where we will hit Ivan Toney's best bets, which, as I said, I failed you. I apologize. I really felt good about that bet, and I really felt extra good about it as soon as he hit that free kick, and yet couldn't quite get over the hump. I'm blaming Philly for that. I don't know what's going on there. I know they just re-signed Jim Curtin, which also I didn't like because I thought he might end up as the fire coach. Nope, they re-signed him through 2026.
He loves it over there, man. He loves it.
Smart move by Philly. He seems like a good coach. Ivan Toney's best bets. You want me to start out?
Your thing, baby.
Okay, I got two ones. I'm sticking with the overs. You know, I'm anything. I'm nothing if not difficult to change my ways, and I'm addicted to overs. I'm sticking with it. I got two for you. I know I've been going one, but if I go two,
are you parlaying it, or you got two for me?
I'm parlaying. I'm parlaying these bad boys.
Fireworks are going off right now. I think it would be a little anti-American for you not to parlay them.
Go for the glory. Go for the gusto. That's what we do. That's what we do here in the red, white, and blue. So I'm gonna. These are both weekend games. Palmeiras hosting Flamengo in the Brazilian Serie A, and a little closer to home, Charlotte hosting FC Cincinnati. Both those games are going over 2.5. That's my pledge for this week of America's birthday. I'll figure out what the odds are right now, but you go ahead if you got yours ready to.
I will co-sign the FC Cincinnati game for sure. They've been leaking goals. Charlotte leaks goals. Yeah, I'm all on board with that.
Exactly.
Are
we sure that's not gunfire?
No, we're not sure. We are not sure. Vancouver and Seattle. I mean, you can get Seattle plus 240 to win in Vancouver. I kind of like it a lot.
Plus 240.
Actually. Plus 240. I mean, without Jordan Morris and Christian Roldan, but still, like, I think they underestimate a little bit of the Schmetz magic.
That team's got a lot more than Morris and Roldan.
And then 0-0 in the Fire Nashville game.
0-0.
Send it home.
Wow, really? I feel like
Fire. No Walker. Zimmerman.
I was gonna say no Zimmerman. You got that. That's true.
But yeah, it's 0-0.
0-0. Okay. I'm still trying to figure out where is the game, Cincinnati game for this weekend. I'm trying to. All right, I figured out why I couldn't find the odds on the Cincinnati Charlotte game. It's because Charlotte plays on Wednesday, so the book hasn't put up the odds on Cincinnati and Charlotte, so I can't tell you what the odds are going to be. But parlay,
just take it.
Does not matter. Charlotte hosting Cincy, goals there. Palmeiras and Flamengo in Brazil, goals there. Just lock it in and thank you.
By the way, Big Cat potentially getting sued for his can't miss winner. I feel like that's coming my way soon for my parlays.
For how bad your parlays
are. For how bad they are.
Oh gosh. Yeah.
I need his lawyer. I need his lawyer.
I don't know if you can afford that. I don't know if you can afford him or let's finish it up. Let's finish it up on a high. Everybody's favorite segment, GOAWs time. I got a several that I'm ready to throw out.
Several.
Oh yeah. Woo. But I don't want to take yours. So if you're ready to go, I'll allow you as the it's been a few weeks here. So if you're ready, I'll let you go first.
We talked about him a little bit, and I do think it's important to recognize the resiliency of the human spirit when we see it happening right before our very eyes. And I'm talking about one Georgi Mihailovic. Georgie was like Gio Reyna light in terms of like causing issues off the field and with managers and moping and, rumors of him, having issues down in MLS's back and, pouting that he wasn't starting and, Greg not wanting to bring him into the national team and just having a bad reputation. Kid needed to get out of Chicago, goes to Montreal, takes a year to adjust, balls out, finishes in second place in the Eastern Conference. And they were like 1 point off Philly to win the East. People kind of forget that a little bit as well. And he was a huge reason for that. I think he had 2 goals and like 18 assists or something last year. And now he's playing in, the Eredivisie, and he comes back to the national team and he's succeeding. I think that is like, that should give you hope that like the Gio Reyna situation can get resolved. That should give you hope that like, I know that stuff like this can seem uber dramatic sometimes, but like this happens and people recover from it. And like the fact that Georgie is doing what he's doing right now, and I'm sure he wants to take the next step with the first group, but like I think it's pretty cool, especially considering like, you know, he's been doing this since he was 16, 17 years old, and it's tough to become a professional athlete at that age. So it seems like he's growing up a little bit.
He was one of my honorable mentions, so I'm glad I didn't go first. I think you're right. You know, it's obviously he does want to make that step into the A team, but you gotta sort of prove yourself with what he's doing right now in the Gold Club squad, and he's been doing it. So, you know, next up will be to continue what he's doing with Alkmaar, and, you know, get some call-ups with the A team. So shout out to him. I also was going to sort of loop in Christian Roldan into that, because he's another guy that, you know, more so than Mihailovic, he's really caught a lot of grief from the MLS haters in the U.S. men's national team Twitter sphere. And, you know, I'm sure that plenty of them will find ways to poke holes in his performances so far in the Gold Cup, but they've been good. Like he's been playing well. So it's probably tough, right? It's got to be a little tough. I talked to Areola about that. Who else was it? I asked about that. Somebody else that was sort of in the, you know, the focal point of a lot of, you know, U.S. men's national team Twitter hate at MLS guys. And, you know, they admit it. They're like, yeah, we see it. They're human beings, right? And so it's cool to see guys like that show up and show out a little bit. Also, another honorable mention to the Qatari national team for providing us with, you know, some very useful ammunition to continue to bury LLL Triste with. I don't know why they're in Gold Cup. I know it's some sort of, you know, contractual thing with, you know, in the lead up to the World Cup, you know, they were in the Gold Cup then, and, you know, must be some. I've seen Qatari Airways, you know, as a sponsor for the Gold Cup, so I'm sure there's, you know, there's some contractual stuff going on there. And, you know, they're not nearly good enough to win it. So they're not really a threat, but good on them for beating Mexico. Anybody who beats El Triste, you get a thumbs up from me. But of course, my goal for the week, it'll be no surprise, Timmy Parker. You know, I mean, he's scoring goals at a pace of 0.5 goals a game with Sam in attendance, which is good enough for, I think, 7th in MLS. Yeah, that's a pretty big caveat, or pretty big asterisk, because since I've only been at 2 games so far. But you know, he's a center back, and he's scored a goal. He just got his first All-Star bid or nomination just this past week, and he's got a kid on the way. Everything's coming together for Timmy Parker. And as we teased before, I'm not saying Sam's Army, you know, made it happen, but you know, it played a role. That's all I'm going to say. So shout out to Tim. Obviously, he's having a great season, and as is the rest of St. Louis City. So it's been cool to watch, and been cool to watch in person. And obviously, you know, when a good friend of the pod obviously does stuff like this, you got to give him a shout out. So shout out Tim Parker. Obviously, great season, and more to come. And there we go. We kept it kind of short. I know you laughed at me when I said I was going to keep it short, because, you know, I don't normally do so.
Well, we were supposed to, we got on at 8:30 and we bullshitted for 15 minutes. Yeah, it's in an hour and 15 minutes. You said we'll keep it to 30, but yeah, no, totally. Yeah, this has been super quick.
I stick at keeping things short. But thank you, Tyler. Always a pleasure to have you on. Hopefully you'll grace us with your presence again sometime soon. And everybody, thank you for listening. We'll be back next week when America, I don't know how many years old America is at this point. Can you do the quick back of the envelope math on that?
Yeah, something like 226,
23.
250 something, 247.
Yeah, we'll go with that.
Sure.
Happy birthday, America. Hopefully those are fireworks and not gunshots. See you guys next week.